Hi and welcome back to another review, and obviously this one's quite a shiny little review. This is the Garmin 785 MTD. So it's a truck, motorhome, camper van, Satnav, mainly a Satnav that you can put the dimensions and the weight of your vehicle into it, and it supposedly will then route you along roads, whatever they may be, large or small, that are suitable for your vehicle, or at least your vehicle should fit through or under. So let's quickly go over the spec of the Satnav. Now, one of the features I bought this Satnav was because of the rear dash cam there. So I was thinking, cool, new Satnav, looks all rugged and everything else, slightly bigger screen than my old Satnav, slightly better features, but with the camera on the back there, it means I could get rid of my dash cam that I've got on the dash. So it's like clean the dash up, declutter if you like. Now, one of the benefits of having that, not only to record what you do in case of accidents and things like that, is that it can give you lane departure alerts and also proximity alerts as well. So if the traffic in front is slowing down considerably and it's noticed you're not, then obviously as it sees something coming towards it quite quickly, it'll give you an alert, a collision alert. It's got Bluetooth in there, so which means you can get Bluetooth hands-free calling. You can also get your text messages come through, even be read out and things like that. And you can also use that Bluetooth for media streaming as well. So one of the great features of this having Bluetooth and being connected to your phone is that using the Garmin Drive app on your phone, you can easily set up the navigation points, your next waypoint or where you're going to drive to. So for us, we go around and we share locations of where we're going, or we save maps on a pins on a map even. We can go to the pin, just get the GPS coordinates, put it in the app on the phone and say, right, let's go there, and ping, it's straight on there and we're ready to go. It supports voice commands as well. So for example, you can start off, say, let's navigate to, and it'll ask for address, town, city, or whatever, and then you can enter an address that way or a postcode that way and navigate. So getting back to the specs of it, it runs on an Android 6 operating system. It's got a 7-inch touchscreen. The dimensions are 25 by 199 by 122, which basically gives it a kind of 16 by 9 orientation and a bit thick. Like I say, it looks rugged, looks like it's going to take a bit of a pounding. We've not dropped it yet or not sort of banged anything into it, so I can't say for sure that it is robust in anything like that, but it looks that way anyway. It looks a bit more robust than the last one we had. It's compatible with the Garmin wireless backup systems like the BC30, 35 and 40. Now once you've installed it with the traffic alert cable that comes with it, the little antenna, the traffic alerts pop up and then you can either automatically reroute or just see what the traffic is and reroute around it. Now with this being one specifically designed for motorhomes and camper vans and stuff like that, it's actually within the mapping software itself. It's got camper contact and ASCII locations, so campsites and a few rough camping campsites that are on camper contact as well. The 3D maps on here, like, pretty good. It's in a city centre, it'll show you tall buildings, and out in a countryside, if you're driving around mountains and that, it shows the terrain and the elevations in the terrain are given roughly in sort of darker colours to being a bigger mountain. So it's pretty cool as well. It's got built-in Wi-Fi as well, which means you can download the map updates and software updates and things like that over Wi-Fi. You don't have to bother connecting it to a computer or anything. And if you then have it connected to the Garmin Drive app, you can even get weather reports and weather radar information that'll show over the location where you are now, and those will pop up on the screen as well. The whole thing weighs around about ½ kilo. That's the cable, the actual device and the screen mount itself. There's also a micro SD card slot on the side there, and that allows you to put a card of up to 128 gig of size in it, and that allows you to keep more of the recordings from the dash cam. It's preloaded with full European maps down to the tiniest bit of street level, and that is one good thing that you can do even on the occasions when, you know, we like to go off-road a little bit. It's still got those dirt tracks and everything on there as well. There's not been many locations that we've been down where it's not known about the track or the road and everything that we're travelling on. The map updates are free for life of you owning the unit, and so far the maps that are included, the free European map, the entire system, even covers Turkey and all the other locations we've been on our trip. The suction mount is really good, but for us what we needed was a way to close the front blinds on the screen, so we used one of these little dash mat systems, which is really good, nice and weighty, clicks on the back of the magnetic mount, and for extra stability I actually stuck it down and it didn't move because the underside of it there is quite flat. The mount on the back, the system is quite good. It's a magnetic system, so you can easily remove it if you go out of the vehicle and you don't want to leave it on show. Just basically just unmagnetize it from the mount, and off you go. Now, we've been using this for around about 6 months now, and about 7,000 miles. And given the fact that we live full-time in our van and we've been on an epic trip, I would say we've used this at least every day, or if not every other day. So our experience of using this unit is probably the most intense review or reviewed information that you're ever going to get. So it's not like we use it once a week to travel to a relative somewhere we're unsure about. We're using this to travel throughout Europe and now Turkey, and the locations that we're going to are somewhat different than you might normally go if you just go to campsites all the time. Now for a bit of a reality check. What's it like actually using the unit? On the first power up, the first time I went to use it and set it all up, it crashed. So much so that it wiped it absolutely clean. Not like factory default, but totally clean. So when I eventually got it going again, and that was via connecting it to a computer, I had to load the maps, the software and everything to it. Since then though, it's been slightly more reliable. It has crashed a couple of times, but normally just press and holding the power button on the side, power it back up again, it seems to work out alright. I will note, and you've probably seen it already, this screen is too reflective. I just can't understand how they've not put an anti-reflective coating on there. As you're driving down the road and there's a tiny bit of movement like that, as you can see that's bloody annoying, isn't it? Seeing that little reflection there moving around in the periphery as you're trying to concentrate on the road, it's not good. So if you don't really need this for the active traffic that it comes with, which only works in certain countries as well, like the UK, France, Germany, that kind of stuff. We've not found the active traffic working everywhere we've been. You can actually power this by the built-in socket on the side there, which is a micro USB. Now, let's talk about routing. Obviously, we entered the dimensions of this van into the software, and we trusted it to find us routes that were suitable. Some of the routes that it thought were suitable were down paths, like actual walkways. Or sometimes they'd be the opposite. Sometimes there'd be a really decent dual carriageway or a nice big A road, and it would choose to send us over some sort of farmer's track over a field to cut maybe 300 yards or 200 meters or something like that off the next turn in on a really decent road. So one of the biggest problems we're having with this is it just doesn't understand road networks. So that's Waze, just for an idea of what's going on, and it understands roads. And like I say, that's the Garmin, and it thinks that we should just drive along the seafront there rather than actually going on the road. So yeah, not great at all actually. Now another little criticism, they are not all criticisms by the way, but another little one is the dash cam on there is fixed. So what do I mean by that? Well, it means you can't adjust it. So for example, if that's level with our dash right now, and I want to adjust my sat-nav towards me, the driver, so I can see it clearer, well, you end up then pointing the camera over that way rather than pointing it out of the front of the van, which means all those amazing features that are built in are not as reliable. Certainly not going to detect the lane departures as clearly, certainly not going to detect things stopping in front of you as clearly, and your view for the dash cam is going to be slightly skewed off to one side all the time. Therefore, if something happens in a collision and you've only caught half the picture, that's not great either. No matter which dash mount we used, whether it was a suction screen mount or whether it was the pad that I've got, the footage is quite shaky. What does that mean? Well, it means that the camera itself has got no sort of stability, software or physical in there at all, which isn't great as well if you're using it for some sort of accident claim on your insurance and you want to prove something and the camera's giving it this. Big issue for us was the number of times it's lost satellite reception in valleys, sometimes in town centres, places you would have thought that it would be far better at dealing with. Now you might think that's a negative, but some of the travels we've had, some of the things we've seen going down roads without this telling us left or right because it's lost signal, they've actually turned out really good. So I have to say at that point, it is a negative, it's a bit naff, but it's led to some pretty epic roads that we've driven down too. And the thing is, when we've been using our backup, which is basically an old phone I've got that we put on the dash, that's held reception for all the journey really, for the last probably 3 or 4 weeks. And we've been using the built-in Google Maps, which is on our Android head unit media center, and that's been fine. On a couple of occasions the collision alert has come up because the road has dipped a little bit, so like a tiny little bit of change in the road surface and it said, oh, collision alert, and saved a recording. And it's just been a bit of maybe subsidence or something in the road. Now the lane departure warning and the anti-collision warning systems I think are really, really good. The only downside to that, I would say, is that it notices everything. So if someone cuts you up in traffic, it lets you know. If you're changing lanes just regularly on a dual carriageway or motorway, very gently, very smoothly, it lets you know. So all these systems are alert and activated after 30 miles an hour, regardless of your driving standard. So if you're driving perfectly or you're driving erratically, it's still going to let you know about all these alerts, which gets to the point of becoming quite annoying, and then you start to phase out a little bit about the alerts, which then makes them kind of pointless. Now going back to its routing as well, I would say it over eggs the time to destination time, if you know what I mean, by about 20%. So when you set it in and you have the other, like say we've got a system we're using by the side of it, there's a massive difference sometimes, like 45 minutes to an hour if we're doing a big drive in one day. And that makes you question its route. Is it taking you on a stupid daft route because you're a big motorhome, even though you might have chosen, you know, the fastest route to get there? Or is it just the fact that it's losing track of roads that it can't quite quantify the right dimensions of your vehicle for, and therefore somewhere down the road it's going to tell you to take a left or right and go across a farmer's field, and it knows you're going to drive really slowly over that, so it adds some time on it. But either way, yeah, it over eggs the route an awful lot, but it's quite clever in the fact that it lies to you. Probably in about 10 minutes of getting there, you'll notice that its time has come down dramatically, and yeah, it's then sort of like matches up with the Google Maps kind of time scale. It's not right, really. So the reason we updated this was because we found the other unit, like I said, the 790 MTD or something like that, to be really reliable. The on-screen instructions were great, the maps at lane changes and stuff like that, the information you got on screen was great, and that's not changed, despite the fact that this one's running Android and it's a slightly different operating system. The mapping software, the instructions you get, and the clear turn information you get on screen are brilliant. They're better than any other Satnav software we've tried so far. So would I recommend buying it? I think there's a few things on there that it's not just like I'm whinging about and everyone else wouldn't find a problem. I think if you wanted to angle this at yourself, then you couldn't rely on the dashcam footage. I think the screen flickering like that all the time would do your head in as much as it's done my head in. So you probably add some anti-reflective coating to the front, which I have thought about as well. But then I've thought about the fact that this is a lot of money. So in fact, what I'm probably doing is selling this when we go back to the UK. Let me know if you want to buy it. And instead I'm going to go back to the 770 as well, which is exactly the same but better at navigating. Also doesn't seem to have these weird quirks in there sending you down the wrong road or trying to make you cross a farmer's field or anything. So maybe they've updated the software a little too much, changed it a bit too much to work on Android, and the old system worked far better. Get an old phone and start using your old phone as your backup sat-nav, and then you realise that it's such a good backup sat-nav that you use it full time. Well, in fact, you don't use this one full time, but you use Google Maps instead on your Android head unit. And what I've done to get around that is on my phone and the Android head unit, I've got Messenger installed, Facebook Messenger, and whenever we sent a Google Map pin now, I ping it across to Facebook Messenger, tap on it on the dash, boom, Google Maps opens up, navigate to. Easy as, really, isn't it? Right then, I know a lot of you have waited a long time for this review, but I wanted to bring it to you in a way that was honest, informative, had all the pros and cons, and gave a little bit of background information too. Hope you appreciate that. Alright, take care. On the next one we're going to be talking about technical stuff again. I'm going to be talking about power. See you later, guys. Bye.